Um, I am used to like just sit quietly, and sometimes I have people, but it's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Okay,
Setting up your
good.
meeting to live.
Officially welcome.
Officially welcome. Welcome to the second half of the show because we didn't go live.
Yeah, right.
Welcome to the second half of the show. Sorry you missed the good stuff. We were talking about people climbing up stuff at Disney and like they're so gentle and kind of.
Yeah.
You don't need to go backwards. It was good. And we were talking about our guest bedrooms. Ooh, Genevieve, I'm going to Sarah's house, by the way. I'm gonna
Yes.
be I'm gonna be a
No,
guest.
It's
Be
to
a guest.
experience the guest bedroom with the two robes and the extra slippers that we have.
I'm
Yes.
very jealous. I wanted to go be a
No,
I know. I was
do
guest.
like,
it. Do it.
I'm like, I
Whoever
need
gets
to
here
have
first gets here
a
first.
vacation.
So I know, right?
This is
Also,
what I actually
good
decided.
coffee.
By the way, welcome to the show. Welcome. We're
Hi.
just like in our, I think actually what it is when people go away on vacation and then they come back, it feels very light and easy. And then you just have this like, I feel refreshed. And so
Mhm.
I think that, I recently went on vacation and Sarah now went on vacation. Genevieve, it's your turn. It's
Yep.
your turn to get out of Dodge.
Yes, get out of Dodge.
So, which could be a great lead into what we were just talking about, like the
Totally.
love book, right? The five languages of love. But
Yeah.
before we start, disclaimer: this is not a doctor show.
Yes.
We don't have any.
No.
We're not diagnosing. We're not telling you that you have anything wrong with you, or we're not telling you what you are. We're just saying this is our opinion. It's our experiences that we're sharing, and we each have our own like backgrounds professionally. Genevieve is I want you to say what your official title is, so then I can remember it next time.
Yeah. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker with an attachment expertise.
That's wonderful. And I love talking about attachment. I think that we actually could talk about that today because that kind of goes with love
Hmm.
languages, right? But
Totally.
Yeah.
so and then Sarah and I both have a background in health and fitness, health and wellness. We've been doing this and we're both dance fitness instructors. Um, I run well, actually we both run a mindset. I mean, it's really we're kind of well-rounded people. We both run mindset coaching and we have just a lot of our own I guess growth, that we're really sharing with other people. So the professional background that I have is that I'm sharing my life experience. And I mean, I have tons and tons and tons of things that I've been through. And so we're just here to share and hope that we can open the door to uncomfortable or unlikely conversations that people don't really talk about in mental health. And this month, because it's February, we are talking about love because
Yeah.
it's the love month. And it's funny because I think we all said we don't celebrate Valentine's. Like we all just kind of do our own thing. Didn't you and I, Sarah,
Yeah.
talk about that? We don't really,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
So
All three of us. I know we're
yeah,
like,
but we're just like, we'll celebrate the love because everyone else is.
yeah, like
Totally.
So
if I'm in the
go
mood for
along.
chocolate, I'll go buy myself some chocolate.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah, if I want something, I'll just get it. And I think that's really important too, to like know it's okay to love yourself. And that was what we were just talking about before we went live. So Genevieve, if you want to just dive right in, like we were talking about the different types of service or different types of love that we heard on the book club this week. So we're
Yeah.
reading the five, what is the official title? Five?
It's just the
Languages?
five love
Okay.
languages. And then yeah, it's just the five love languages. Um, so this week in our book study group, or Sarah's mindset group that she does in the mornings, we covered acts of service and physical touch. And I was just covering for her because she was out. But it, what I was saying before we went live is that because I was asked like what resonates for me, and what I was saying is, again, I feel like we all need love in each and every one of these forms, but there are forms that are more resonant or more meaningful to us or feel um more just fulfilling, like filling the love tank, right? There's some things that fill our love tanks just more, like we get more of a deposit from those kinds of things than the other things. And um it's that's just how I'm feeling about it, because I resonate with each and every one. But I definitely think this week, as I was listening, I think what I noticed a lot is that in talking about acts of service and how people show up in a way that is really helpful and supportive of their partner, um, and that is interested in doing things to support and help them and make things easier for them, or just be helpful to them is really like a powerful one for me. And I think it's been so poignant because there's been several years now where it's been very difficult for my partner to engage in a lot of, just kind of the day-to-day stuff because of his handicaps. And so, and his limitations, and it's not his fault. None of this is his fault. Um, so, and then I have a little tangent, that I hope is okay to share.
It's always okay.
And this is deeply connected to, I think, acts of service. So we had to euthanize our 20, I was telling you guys, our 22-year-old cat. We did the math. We actually went back and looked at pictures and did a history last night. She was probably more like 25 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, because she was, anyway, so that's a long story, but we had this cat 25 years. I had her for a long time, the majority of her life. She's very special. We inherited her. We had to euthanize her yesterday. We had to euthanize her yesterday. And it I had to handle it all. And that was real hard, but really good too. The tangent that I want to say is that the way that this woman showed up and provided the service that she provided was completely loving. It was the most amazing. It was the most amazing experience I have had in losing an animal. So if it's okay, can I just share what happened really quickly? Sure. I'll try to be quick. So she showed up with such intention about recognizing the difficulty of this, this process. She came in, she immediately just shared with us that she she's a vet, because she could tell we were cat people. We love all animals, but we're definitely cat people. And she came in and she's like, I'm a vet and I treat all animals, but I just want you to know I'm a cat person. And she talked with us about both of our cats and wanted to know their stories, and how they came to be with us. She walked us through it all. She made everything so comfortable and beautiful. She was so gentle with Sheba. We were completely involved in the whole process. And she made this thing. I'm going to show you. She made this thing with Nolan. Sorry, I had to get up. So Nolan sat on the floor with her while Sheba had just been given her shot to be put to sleep, not to be euthanized, but to be put to sleep. She sat on the floor with Nolan and they made this. I hope you can see it. I'm sorry. It's still drying.
Oh, the little footprint.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Aww.
it's hard to see. We'll paint it.
Oh, I see it a little bit, yeah. Aww.
She had Nolan help her with it, and she talked about death. And she said her thing about death was so beautiful. She said, I don't view death as the opposite of life. What I view death as is the opposite of birth. That birth and death are a part of life. They're processes in life. And so it's not, and she said it's not, she said, so what would you think? So what would you think is the opposite of life? And Nolan was like, I think the opposite of life is desolation.
Wow. Desolation.
Yeah. Wow.
And then she asked him, she was like, wow, are you a philosopher? And we were talking about what he meant. And he's like, well, the opposite of death is the non-existence of life, period. Where life can't exist. That's the opposite of life. It was just so beautiful. And then she had let me carry Sheba out to the car. I mean, this lady completely provided us the most beautiful act of service. And obviously we paid her for it. And it was worth the money. It was so worth the money.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful the way that she showed. You can tell that she genuinely cares and knows that people need, they need to be served in this way and shown up
Yeah.
for in this way. And it was just beautiful. And I was thinking about it because I think that's why the three of us are in this work too, is that acts of service are a really important aspect of our love language.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so when we show up and are supporting others and helping others and, you know, trying to alleviate others' sort of stress or suffering or pain, like that's a really important aspect of acts of service. So I'm going to stop there because I
Wow.
said a lot
Well,
and I
and I
hope I
want to
didn't
say something
ramble too
really,
much.
I want to
Beautiful.
say something really quick about the cat. Like, I'm so sorry for your loss, but I'm also so grateful for the life that the cat gave you. Like,
Totally.
I think for us, we've lost so many animals. My husband and I are dog people, and I would be a cat person, but I'm allergic. So I had cats growing up, and they could never figure out why I was always stuffy. And back then, they didn't have
Mhm.
like allergy testing, really.
Right.
So and the cats would literally sleep on my pillows at nighttime.
Yeah.
And then I would wake up and like, and they're like,
Yeah.
"What's happening? What's wrong?" And then they started keeping the cats out of my room, and then I was able to breathe again. Lo and behold, found the answer. It's really sad because I do love cats, but I think it's so beautiful what she gave to you. And actually, what's interesting too about that is that all of our pets that we've had in Oklahoma, that have been had to be put to sleep is, we've had it done at our house except for one, and we only had to do it because she had like an emergency like type diagnosis, like it was just a heart thing, and she was not.
Hmm.
It was just bad, and so like it was interesting because when you talked about the 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 death of your cat, the first memory that came to me was the trauma. Was the
Hmm.
last that one's the most recent, so it's not really fair to say that that would be the first. But then as you were talking, I reminded myself how beautiful the other ones were because our vet actually, he would charge you a fee, but he would come to your house and do it at your home. So the
Yeah.
animal didn't have to be traumatized in the last moment. Like, can you imagine like if every vet was
Hmm.
able to do that, to be able to put an
Yeah.
animal to sleep at their home
Yeah.
or in the way that
And
your
that
vet.
was this experience. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was this
Yeah.
experience. Totally. It was
It's so
amazing.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Like our dogs, after we started euthanizing at home, it was so much simpler for them to grieve because they do grieve. I don't know if you know this or
Yeah.
not, but like animals grieve. And this last go around, because Coco didn't see her, so her birthday's today. Coco's birthday
Oh.
is today. She's 8. But her sister, who they were litter mates, she didn't get to see her pass. And so she, for weeks upon weeks upon weeks, grieved because she didn't understand, I think, where she went. And there
Hmm.
was no closure for her. So, like, the closure that the vet gave for you and your son
Yes.
is huge. And I think
Yes.
that that's a really important part of our existence here. Like, being able to have closure around death, because I absolutely believe that same thing that the vet talked about is like birth, life, and then I don't know that I would call it anything necessarily, but it's a full circle, like the release into not existing, right? Like you
Hmm.
go back and become, I don't know, we that could be like a whole nother conversation about like existence and
Totally.
non-existence. But um I think it's so beautiful that she was able to support you because there are a lot of
Yeah.
people that don't have that support. Like I've literally, because my dog's had therapy, like with her neck, she hurt her neck. I've been watching people, and you hear so many things sitting in a vet's office, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of death, like people coming in and going out, and like
Mhm.
tears. And I just want to hug every person that walked out the door. Like there was probably
Yeah.
3 people last week that I saw come in. They go in a room, and while I'm waiting for our therapy, or we're sitting, when we're finishing, and they come out and they're tears, and and the office is giving them a hug, and there's so much love that is had around that. But then there could be more. Like I don't know how
Yeah.
they do it there because we've never been to there to experience it, but um it's really beautiful, the love that she was able
Yeah.
to provide you because it's
It was
necessary
amazing.
during death.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. It was amazing. She was like a hospice worker. I was
that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
it was so like not clinical. It was so
Yeah,
humane, but it was like she is like so trained. Like she's been doing this for years. It was amazing.
yeah,
It was just
She was
amazing.
she was meant to do that type of work, like you could tell.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
So one more thing too
Totally.
before Sarah gets to talk, because sorry, I talked a lot too. But I have actually one of my clients, he wrote a book and it's all around how to support people in death. And so I'm actually trying to help him get a following so that he can get a publisher, because a publisher
Yeah.
basically said to him, you have to have a following in order for us to publish this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we're doing it. Like, so he's been posting. So if you want to follow someone who has some really lovely supportive words, it's all about his friend who passed away, basically him supporting him and his family, because death shouldn't be scary. It shouldn't be lonely. It should
No.
be loving and supportive. And so he really has a beautiful perspective of life because he's been through it with a friend, but also he's giving the encouraging tools. So I will find out what his hashtags or what his call signs are so that you guys can follow him on TikTok and on Facebook. But he posts every week, Tuesday's encouragement. And so I was like, well, we have Tuesday, not anymore, but he does it like a post for people to come and read. And they're so beautiful, like just talking about different pieces of life and supporting people who are going through hard times. So we should have him on the show someday. He's really, really great to talk.
Cool. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Sorry. You go, Sarah.
I was like interjecting a little bit here and there, but no, it's all good. And I'm so sorry, Genevieve. Yeah, I wanted to.
Thanks.
Mountains too, because
that's hard. And thank you for showing up here, because sometimes we want to hide. I think that's another important piece of this is we want to hide and say, I don't want to show up today. But we're so glad you're here, because us being here with you is loving too. And it's okay. Like Sarah cries a lot. I want to cry like Sarah. Like I want to cry all the time.
I know. I just think about crying and I do it. I
know. I was like, uh-oh, it's starting to come up. I was like, it's okay if we all cry. And I think that's, it needs to be talked about. Like it's okay to release. And that's how trapped emotions get started is by holding back the emotion that we want to like let go. So thanks for being here today. And we welcome you with open arms.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks.
Love. Yeah. Losing a pet is it's I don't even want to losing a pet. It's like you're losing a family member. Like I want to put it at a higher pedestal, because it's such an emotional journey of like love.
Totally.
So no.
Well, and so much like our animals are speaking language, like love language to us too.
Yeah.
You know,
I think we can learn so much from them with that. Like I think I've said that before. I was like, I want to be as open as Batman is, because he's like, I need this. Like he'll yell at me or he'll like get real close.
That makes me think of this woman the other day. I saw it on Instagram. I'll send it to you guys. Maybe I already did, but she basically was talking about how the way we should greet our children when they come home or when they wake up is like our pets. And she was like, literally like when they walk into the space, you should wag your butt and like, oh my gosh, it's you. I'm so excited to see you. And so I've started doing this with my 6-year-old. My teenagers think I'm crazy. Like I did it last night when I got home. I was like, oh my gosh, hi. And they were like, so know this, it may not work for your teenagers. Oh, see, Harvey was like, she's excited.
I know.
They recognize love when they see it. They're like, I love you.
It's such a weird
speaking our love language.
I know, right? It's so weird too, because like that's the thing. Like, a couple times we've filmed like after we've come home from a trip. So yesterday when we got home, after like 4 days gone, they were like going crazy. But it's like you can't help but like show that love back, right? Because you're like, oh we'll hold the dog and then like take turns with each one, because Harvey will jump up and then the other one will hold Batman. It's this whole like 5 minutes of like reading every time. Like,
so funny.
Or that was 4 days gone. It's the same thing when I go and teach a class and I'm home less than 2 hours later.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. So like I think for them it doesn't even matter how long we're gone. They just have so much love for when you return. They're like, oh, my person's back. Yes. Here, I love you. And I think if we greeted each other in this way, like, could you imagine what our world would be like? Like, that would be a funny reel, is like greeting your people as like if you were a dog or a cat, like, hey, like, rubbing up against you, like, hey, so what's up? What's going on?
I think I've seen a reel like that. Yeah, there's like 2 guys on Instagram, and I remember seeing like if you acted like your best friend was your pet.
Oh my gosh, that would be hilarious.
It was so funny. Like they like pet each other and they're like, so like just the way they talk through. How was your day? Like
that's hilarious.
It was so funny. But it's true. It's like there's so much love that's visible too with
and
it's like you can just but wow, like I just want to say 25 years, that's incredible. Like
I know.
Amazing. Like a quarter of a century. Like how old were you like yeah, 2019. I don't even know.
So when no, because I inherited her when I was see, I got married at 28. So
Mhm.
yeah, I probably inherited her at third 29.
Oh, because it was your
29.
grandma's, right? Your grandma's cat.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
okay.
Is that
Aw.
right? Because yeah, so it would be we got her in 2011. So I've
Mm.
had her 13 years
Oh,
and
gotcha.
Mm.
I'm gonna be 45 this year. So yeah, 28-ish.
You look
Is that
young.
right? You're
Yeah.
so kind.
5
You guys are
minus 20.
kind.
Well, it would be 20, right? If she was 20, if the cat was
That's right.
25.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. You're
Yeah.
totally right. Yeah.
So like
So
right out
anyway,
of high school.
thanks for doing the math.
I'm
It's
an
still a
She
accountant
lot.
by trade. Like I went
I've
to
known
school
her
for
for
accounting.
Yeah. Probably
I've known her for that long, but I didn't care for her until 2011. So
Yeah.
like
yeah.
physically care.
It
You
doesn't matter. You knew her.
care. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
probably
think
snuggled up on her as a kitten, right?
oh,
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
she
probably.
a kitten?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So her story is really interesting. And I'm sorry, I don't want to be too tangential on this. We're 6:10. We only have like 5 minutes left before we have to go. But I just want to say her story is really funny. If you want me to, like, we have a whole like a theory about this. But what happened was my parents lived in Yuma, Arizona. This might be a little I don't know. I'm gonna say it, and if people are offended, they can, my apologies. But so she like my grandparents lived in Yuma, like right near the border, and
Mm.
this cat just started showing up and dropping her babies in their backyard.
Oh,
And
no.
so
Oh,
our
no way.
story is that she was from Mexico, and she was bringing her
Wow.
babies over so they could be U.S. citizens.
This is very,
Little
But
kitty.
that's so she
I don't,
started just dropping her babies in my grandparents' yard, and my grandparents are like, "What should we do?" And so they were like, "We're going to adopt her and we're going to spade her." And
Mhm.
and they felt like that my grandma was getting older and needed a companion, and they had tried a dog, and the dog just tore her up, like
um,
just tore her skin up and stuff. And so,
yeah.
so they adopted her, and she became like their love, and then they
Oh,
died, and she became my love.
Oh,
oh,
right? Yeah,
that's
like
sweet.
emotional support through it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Emotional support animal.
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, you have another cat too, right?
Zeke, yeah,
Zeke.
Zeke,
And he'll need some extra love today too, because it's probably going to
yeah,
be rough.
Oh, I
Like
bet.
yeah.
they've been best friends for a long time.
They
Like
really have.
I think when it's interesting when animals grieve the loss of a loved one, like they do move through it faster than we do, but they do grieve
Hmm.
in their own way. Like it's really
Yeah.
interesting to watch because we've had so many animals that were bonded. And
Oh,
like I have pictures and videos of one of our dogs because he actually died at home, like on his own.
mm,
And it was really beautiful. Like we were having coffee. Like it was actually, it was not funny, but it was interesting because I had gone on a vacation with the family. We went to a family reunion and I didn't want to leave. I knew he was sick. But when we came home, so I had this wonderful dog sitter. She was amazing. Like she took him to the vet and took care of him while we were gone. But you could tell he was like really trying to hold out to make it to see us again. And it was like gut wrenching when we showed up and saw how bad he had gotten. We were like, oh my gosh, like we should have come home
Mm-hmm.
earlier. But it was like this 30-year reunion. Like it was really just a big deal.
Yeah.
And I had just had my son. Like it was the first meeting of him to the family, and he was like probably 12 months old. But we came home and I mean, in his death state, like his little tail, he still was like, oh, like you
Oh,
could see the joy, like his body
yeah.
wanted to get up and he just couldn't.
mm,
And so like it was funny because my littlest comes up and he's like leans over and he gives him a kiss and he's like, Brody, like he barely could kind of like say his name. It was very sweet. And Brody wagged his little tail and he went off and he started playing like 12 in his 12-month
Mm.
old style, like just very easy. But then I said to him that night, I was like, just give me one more morning coffee. That was our thing. Like we drank coffee together on the patio every day. And I
mm.
was like, just make it to the morning coffee. Like, I just want to make one more night so we can have our coffee together. He literally, like,
They
I had
do.
my morning coffee with him. He's laid in my lap. We snuggled. I talked to him. I told him it was okay for him to go. I'm going to cry.
Well,
And
Yeah.
I set him down on his little blanket and I was like, I'm coming right back. I'm going to get one more cup. Can we have one more cup? Don't go anywhere. He literally, like, I walked inside I came back and he had passed in the time
Yeah.
that I went to get my second. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Like
Wow. Oh,
Totally.
it was
Totally.
just so beautiful, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it was like, that was our thing.
They,
And
yeah.
he knew, he
they,
was like, it's time.
Yeah.
they totally hang on for us.
Yeah.
I feel like Sheba could have died like 3 months ago, and it would have been like right for her to
Yeah.
die 3 months ago. And
Mhm.
we just kept like inching her along because we just didn't want to let go of her. And I
Yes.
think it was a really hard decision, but it was a really good decision to let her go yesterday. And it was like, oh, and I feel badly, but I think it all happened the way it was supposed to. But I really do believe that, Cassie. Like
Yeah.
they hang on for
Yeah.
us. Humans do. Humans
Yeah.
will wait until
Oh, yeah.
they see the person they need to see before they pass, and then they
Right.
pass.
So
You
true.
know?
Well, and I think that's the really important thing about death is like knowing that if we could just kind of work through that process, not quicker, but just in a more open fashion, which is why we're here talking about these things. Like I know that it's been a lot about death today, but I think this is really
Yeah.
important because in love, there's always going to be death. Like there
Yeah.
just is. And it's just part of
Yes.
life. And it's not bad.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
if we could all figure out an easier way to let go, there would be
Yeah.
less suffering because a lot of that
Yeah.
holding on is for our humans that we love so much because it is part of
Totally.
our love language is like being there and wanting to stay in it. It's
Hmm.
really quite beautiful.
Yeah. I feel like it gives you
Hmm.
a chance at like future relationships with people too, because when
Totally.
you have that loss, like I think it does put it in perspective of like how short life
Totally.
really
Yeah.
is.
Totally.
Like you just have a
Totally.
little bit more gratitude, but also you don't get as upset as easily. I don't know. I feel
I
like that
agree.
makes a big
Yeah.
difference. You can have the patience to be like,
Yeah.
I don't want, what is that from? I've heard, don't let the sun set on anger. And it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's so true because like you just don't know what the next night or,
You
next
never
day
know.
will bring. It's
You
like,
never know.
it's
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
important to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
And
But
isn't it interesting with animals? We don't ever hold anything like against, you know what I'm saying? Like we just let them be who they need to be, like pooping in live videos,
yeah,
and like
being
whatever
in bed.
like we don't get mad. We just let them be who they need to be, and the love between us never stops. Like it just is always flowing. And
Hmm.
so if we could learn that between us in relationships, like obviously we need to set boundaries and we need to have conversations, but
Yeah.
I think it's really important that really to have full, intimate, intentional love, you have to be able to let things go with ease
Totally. Totally.
and just
Yeah.
step into it.
I think that's
Yeah.
why I love pet people because I mean we've all probably experienced like somebody who doesn't like pets and it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
what is
And they
wrong?
hold on to stuff. Yeah.
but,
Sorry.
but I
If you're
think it
not a
is
pet person.
yeah you're not a part I know but I was like oh you're a sociopath then okay
Right. No judgment though. No
no, sorry
judgment.
no not trying to judge but
It's
there's something
okay.
to be said I know it's okay we all can have our own opinions too about people's lives
Yeah, we're allowed
but
to.
but I do find that like it is so interesting to like if you can't learn from them and also experience like love and joy, with creatures, it's super hard to like I don't know, there's so many walls built up, I think even with
Yeah.
relationships with people sometimes. And I think
Yeah.
a pet could open you up to, more joy and more love and I just am
Totally.
so grateful, even if it's
Yeah.
like whether you're
Yeah.
cat people or dog people, I do love cats.
Yeah.
And
I just
think
have to have
about when
more cuddly.
exactly.
Yeah.
When
Mhm.
think about like when you see a puppy or a kitten or whatever, like no one ever goes, ugh, ooh, a puppy. Like everyone's always like, oh,
Yeah.
even if you're not really a dog or a cat, like a pet
Mhm.
person,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
like people that don't really love having animals, they'll still like, oh, look how sweet it is. And then they're like, all right, I'm done. Like
Yeah.
everyone still wants to, it's just like a baby. Everyone's like, oh, baby,
Yeah.
They're
they're
innocent.
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't
Yeah.
mean
Yeah.
any harm. Yeah. I know whenever it's like people are allergic, I'm always like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like that just, that also
Yeah.
hurts my heart. Like you can't experience this. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But no, I'm not gonna judge if somebody listens to this and you're not a pet
Yeah.
person.
We don't judge.
Of
We promise.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I just
honestly, I think, it's been so good that we talked about death on our love show today because right now I'm sure that there are many, many people suffering a loss and
Yes.
a loved one. And I
Yeah.
think that it's really important, more important than any other time is when you lose
Yeah.
a loved one to fill your love cup. Like I know we didn't
Yes.
talk a lot about the book today, but like getting your physical touch and acts of service, words of affirmation. What's the other two?
Touching
Um,
gifts. Did
oh
you say
yeah, gifts. And what was the other one?
Yeah.
touch?
Gift,
Gift
Did you say
giving.
gift
touch?
giving.
Yeah, I
No.
said physical touch, but there's
Oh,
one
no,
more.
touch. Oh, okay. Words of affirmation, acts of service,
Quality time.
quality
Quality
time.
Quality.
time.
Good job. I
Yes.
know. I
Quality
was like,
time.
wait,
How could we
How
forget
can we
that one?
forget
That's
that?
a
I
really important
know.
one.
Yeah, right. I know. It's so funny too, because even just like, looking at each one of those, I think we all need a variation of all of them. Like, and
Exactly.
it should be looked at as a scale of like, and
Hmm.
especially even for women, like this kind of goes in, I don't know, I
Yeah.
learned it from Instagram Reels. But I just remember seeing, a woman through her like cycle in a month of like how
Yeah.
much needs specific things. And I think
Yeah.
like it's
Oh,
so important to like understand those areas that you're like, don't touch me, or oh, I want
yeah.
to
Yeah.
touch,
Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so
so
oh, go
so
ahead.
funny because I was talking to my husband about that. I love that you said that about women and their month and their cycle, like what they need. And
Yeah.
we were talking. I was talking with my husband about this is funny. I was talking with my husband about love languages and I just want to make sure I'm meeting your needs and stuff. And he's like, "Sweetie, I just don't have as many needs as you do."
Oh no. You're like, darn it.
Shoot,
That's what makes us
shit.
special, though. Honestly, like, because we have so many needs, I think we're able to give so much more too. Like, I think we
I
are able
agree.
to meet different needs because we have them so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so funny. But I feel like that's also like a part of like, making sure that we don't have like pride and ego in the way of like us
Yeah.
asking for it,
Yeah.
like I think that's a big part of like being an independent woman. And it's like, oh my gosh, I like that's something too, even just, we went to Disney and we're walking around everywhere this past week. And, I was just like always, well, I was also cold, but no, I like held Eddie's hand like the majority of the time or I'd like be right next to him. And I was like, touch is such a big one for me where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah.
the space that we're in that I'm like, how can we get closer? Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
just that's what I need. Like,
And
yeah.
I think too, to talk about like, so for women, and I know Sarah that you haven't given birth, but I think one of the things that I experienced that I never thought I ever would, because I've always been a touchy feely, is when I was pregnant, I didn't want anyone to touch me. Like the bigger I
Yeah.
got, I was like, no one touch me. It's just not, and it's not necessary. Like you just get uncomfortable and like everything is like just awkward. And
Mhm.
what's interesting is after that, it took a long time for me to heal that part of me. So
Wow.
women out there, if you've gone through birth and you're still like struggling, like really get some help in that aspect, because it took
Yeah.
a really long time for me to feel comfortable to be touched again. And I don't know why that is. Like, I don't know if it's
Mhm.
hormonal or if you just feel like different in your body. There was a lot of things that shifted for me in pregnancy. And I never thought I was going to ever have kids. Like I had endometriosis, I had multiple miscarriages. Like I really was like, I'm going to just not have my own kids. Like adoption is the way it's going to be, and that's okay. And then when I got pregnant, I was like, oh my gosh, no one told me about all this stuff. Like who didn't tell
Yeah.
me this? Why did I want this for so many years? And not that I didn't want it. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so much.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming to my senses. But I think it's important to talk about when you're pregnant, your love languages shift too. So like not only our cycles, but also in
Yeah.
pregnancy and after pregnancy. I think partly is because like you always have this baby attached to you. You're just
Yeah.
like, I need space.
Yeah.
Give me
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Your body's probably healing too. So it's kind of like,
yeah, your body's like, no, don't
yeah,
touch me.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a whole nother show, like in itself, of like the
About
the things that happen to women, and then we're like, just this is a no fly zone for a while. No
No
fly zone.
fly zone.
You may not enter this area for a while.
Yeah,
There's
right.
Well,
trauma happening.
I
Yeah.
think I think what we're discovering is there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
There's so much richness, and so much of our lives are going to connect deeply to the stuff that we are reading and discussing and thinking about. And I think it's really important that we are being reflective and making those connections and doing that here. And I think this is a great place. Like, yes, we may have an agenda, but it's also okay if something arises for somebody and the focus becomes that for the time being. And so I will apologize that I said I'm gonna give us a tangent, and the tangent became the whole show. But
No, it was
but or not show, you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
broadcast. I don't
Yeah.
know what I was trying to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it really was an important thing, and all of us could resonate with that topic. And maybe
Oh,
it's
yeah.
something I definitely want to revisit about grief and loss. I think that's a really important aspect of mental health,
Yeah.
and really talking about that, I think would be really cool. And I think we can revisit some of Dr. Chapman's stuff, um,
Yeah.
too, you know.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, and I think March, the March of Dimes or whatever, I think that there is this next month, grief could be one that we could talk about. And actually, I would
Cool.
love to have Jim on the show to talk about kind of his
Mhm.
suggestions that he has so many wonderful like views on
Yeah.
death. And his friend went through cancer,
Mhm.
and it was a very interesting story. And so, I would love to be able to give him the opportunity to share
That'd be
with us,
great.
but also he generates really great conversation. So, I would love to see if he would come and join us maybe in the month of March, and we can
Yeah.
continue to talk about grief and also loss, because grief can happen in a lot of ways. It can happen through
Yeah.
separation, it can happen through divorce, loss, like
Yes.
actual death.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many things that we go through. When you think about the human experience, like if I didn't know about the human experience and someone was like explaining it to me, like just in words, I would be like, yeah, no, I'm good. I think I'm gonna pass.
Yeah.
Like it just sounds like a lot.
Totally.
Like, let's just pass. But there's so many beautiful things in it that I think you would be like, oh, that sounds amazing. Like there's a
Mhm.
double-sided coin there that it's
Yeah.
like sounds so wonderful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Aw,
Yeah.
love that.
Well, this
but
has
you don't
been,
have to apologize for your tangent, because I think it was necessary. And I'm a believer that, the conversation will always be led where it needs to go. And
yeah.
whoever needed to hear this will hear it, and it will be
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Exactly. 'Cause
Yeah.
it is all part of the human experience and
Yeah,
Totally.
relatability
yeah,
Yeah.
to what people are going
Yeah.
exactly.
through. And yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah.
hope if somebody hears this and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is my story right now." It's like,
Yeah.
well, this was meant for you.
Totally.
Like this is why we talked about this because you needed
Yeah,
to hear.
Yeah.
It. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. So
I
thank you
love
for joining us today. We're
Yeah.
so glad that you came. And please drop some like in the comments if you watch this #replay. Let us know your thoughts on love and the love languages and death and whatever else that you want to, like, if there's
Yeah.
other topics that you guys want to hear about and you want
Yeah.
us to talk about these uncomfortable things because you have no one else to talk about it with, we will talk about it. We're not
Totally.
afraid.
Yes. We are not afraid
No.
about
Thank you.
anything.
about
This has been
I,
anything.
so beautiful. Yeah.
honestly, when I do want to spend some time on physical touch, like in one of our
Mm.
in one of our broadcasts or whatever we're calling these live. I don't know what we're calling them. Sorry, I'm
All of
like
it. We're calling it all the things.
all of the our t-
All the things.
our talk. No, what do we call them? Like, oh,
Unlikely
Conversation.
conversation.
unlikely. Oh my gosh, you guys! I this must be the grief talking. I love that your sun's coming up, Cassie, too,
I
and
know,
the light.
isn't
You're
it?
getting more
I'm like,
light. So
I'm
pretty.
ready to go sit on it on the patio.
Mhm.
But I think that it would be really good. I think it would be really interesting to talk about sex and consent
Yeah.
and physical touch and intimacy and that, like intimacy, like sexual behavior falls under an umbrella. It doesn't have to be intercourse. And I think it's really important to talk about how we show love through physical touch and how we, like, in this day and age, how we really do need to, like, make sure that we are touching somebody in a way that is really, really very comfortable for
Yeah.
them and feels good, so
Yeah, maybe we can make that next week. I think because we have
yeah.
one more week of February. So why don't we finish
Yeah.
it off with sexual touch, or just physical
Just
touch in general?
touch,
Like it
just
can be
touch
any
in
kind of
general.
touch.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that would be great.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Yay.
Sounds
Okay, I'm
good.
gonna pop off, ladies. I gotta
Okay.
get my
Yeah.
kid ready and
Yeah.
everything.
Good.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Sarah, Genevieve, thank you as always. This has been wonderful.
Of course. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Have a
Good
beautiful day.
Bye.